Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and I'm excited for this one because it's Sunday morning and it's always traditional for me. Even as a kid you get the Sunday papers and there would be different stories in there because we get sort of Sunday papers in the UK that are exclusively for Sunday. So lots to get into this morning. No return for Mason Greenwood. Apparently the players are against that. Erik Ten Hag ready to sell Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, Donny van de Beek, Anthony Martial. We'll talk about that. Also, there's a bit of an update on the sale of Manchester United and where we are on that. And obviously the Casemiro thing. Will Manchester United appeal that? I think they should appeal that. Whether they'll win it or not, they should win it. But as we know, should doesn't mean will. Lots to get into on the show this morning. I hope you're doing really, really well. So look, let's start off. This story came out, I think it actually came out yesterday. It was from Steve Bates, who writes for the Sunday People, who are also part of the Mirror Group. They have been very good around Manchester United and specifically Ten Hag ever since Ten Hag came into the club. I've never understood why that is. You know, it does go in cycles. Some journalists love the content, keep it up, says Joshua. It's just the way it goes. I remember Duncan Castles under Mourinho was very good around Man United. And just maybe there's people at the Mirror who've got good connects into the club because they have always been pretty decent. So basically, that's where it's coming out about the sale. Now, look, the Mason Greenwood story is coming in from multiple outlets. I actually saw it in the Daily Mail this morning, but I've seen it in multiple outlets, the Express, everybody is talking about it. And I think the source is actually coming from the Sun, who've spoken on about this a few times. Now, unfortunately, look, there is no, this is just a report. It doesn't mean it's necessarily true, of course, but what basically is being said is that the Manchester United squad don't want Mason Greenwood back in the changing room despite him having his charges dropped because it could derail the progress. So a source has said this, let me just find the direct quotes. So a source told the outlet the players are open to him returning to the team, but the scrutiny would be massively distracting and that the dressing room is the happiest it's been for ages and no one wants to rock the boat. So look, as a collective, I very much doubt that they've spoken to every single player about what they want to happen. You know, I was out on Friday night. I've spoken to so many people about this, and you know, I guarantee there's players in that Manchester United dressing room, there's staff in that Manchester United Football Club who are very uncomfortable at the prospect of Mason Greenwood coming back for the same reason some people are uncomfortable as well. But Cato says the quote's out of context. They want to keep momentum. Well, at the end of the day, it's a polite way of saying we don't want him back in the dressing room if that source is correct. Because ultimately, the dressing room, we saw it yesterday, it's a very good place from where it was last season. The club's in a good place. The players are in a good place. Everybody's working for each other. There are no leaks. There are no distractions. You know, you saw it when Casemiro went off yesterday. The team didn't fragment. It didn't collapse. It didn't shatter. It came together, and even a player like Sabitzer comes on who's not been part of the team and he's instantly integrated into the team and becomes part of the team. You know, and I think that is a very intelligent observation from the club and the players if it's true, because we know as United fans, and we can see it with Liverpool now, we've seen it with other clubs and we've witnessed it with ourselves, dressing room harmony isn't turning a switch on. It really isn't. Like, you can have the dressing room and it can be performing badly on the pitch. The balance of a dressing room is hard to achieve. It's probably something that Ten Hag doesn't really get the credit for because he gets credit about a lot of things. But, you know, to turn around a dressing room, which I know firsthand and you know as well, was disgraceful last year. It was toxic. It was, you know, anything but United. There was cliques everywhere. There was leaks everywhere. To turn that around in less than a year, some would say in less than 6 months, and have what it has now, we would have lost that game yesterday. We would have lost that game yesterday, 100% last year. We would have lost that game, and the year before, and probably the year before that. But I never thought we would lose when Casemiro got sent off. Even at 2-1, I was like, we will win this game, because we've seen over the weeks what that team can do collectively. The rapport, the understanding, the chemistry, the fightability, whatever you want to call it. And I think that if you were a Man United player and someone said, do you want Mason Greenwood back? You would go, no, I don't want him back. Not now. It's not, you know, and I'm not even going to get personal about why. You bring him back, you're going to disrail, there's going to be people in this dressing room that are uncomfortable with it. our fans are going to be uncomfortable with it. I mean, look at Old Trafford. Old Trafford is rocking at the moment. You put Mason Greenwood in a Man United shirt, is Old Trafford going to be rocking? It won't. There'll be certain sections of that fan base that are like, it just doesn't, and then the dressing room will feel like that. And that's just Man United's dressing room and Man United's fan base. Imagine the scrutiny when you go away, when we've got to go to Anfield or something like that. It will be a massive distraction. So, look, I don't think this is the players coming out and saying anything because it's coming from a source, and the players won't do that. But I think there may be something with the source because it's completely logical. It's not about personal opinions about whether we should play football or whether we should play for Manchester United again. It's about where Man United are this season and the obvious impact it would be to bring Mason Greenwood back this season would be to derail something that is very unified, very good. The club, the fans, the dressing room, everybody's very locked into sort of like a siege mentality. You bring Mason Greenwood into that, it's not a siege mentality because there'll be people in the club going, wow, I can sort of see where the criticism's coming from, So look, what happens in the summer and beyond that, who knows? But I think there's not really, it's not a very good idea to be looking to do that, and I think that's probably where that story's coming from. George says, after the numerous headaches United had to deal with, this is the last headache we need. Keep the unity at all costs, says George. And morning, Mark. Sorry to go off topic. If your ex doesn't want you back, do you try to move on? Yes, Mikel. If they don't want you back, they don't want you back, Mikel. I'm sorry to be blunt, but if they don't want you back, leave them alone. Move on. That's it. It's like Ronaldo when he left to go to Real Madrid. It was horrible. And I wanted him back, but he wanted to go to Real Madrid. He didn't want to come back. You've got to move on. There must be an album you can listen to, like, who's good for a breakup? I don't know, Coldplay. Listen to the best of the Coldplay. But let's, so look, interesting story, makes total sense. It's a story. I don't know what people think in the chat, but, I do know what people think in the chat. It's a very sensitive topic, but it's a public forum topic now. It's in the public arena. It's not a legal case. Some people would like to see him back because Martial's injured. Some people don't want him seen back ever. I certainly will be firm on this one. I don't want him back in the team this season. What happens in the summer and beyond, let the investigation take place, but not this season. It would be, imagine we brought him back and then if everything went wrong, it would be like, why do it? Like somebody said, why rock the boat? Why change something? So there we go. Jamin says you shouldn't be taking quotes out of context, mate. You shouldn't be speaking out of your arse. I've just read what happens. It's all over the press in the UK. Their headlines are a lot worse. Their headlines say United players don't want him back. The context of it is they're not bothered about, they don't want him back this season because it could derail the dressing room, which is what we've just spent 5 minutes talking about. So grow up and jog on. Get your shorts on, go for a run, because you're talking out your arse. We don't do things out of context. We don't make things up, and we're very, very comfortable that 6 or 7 outlets have all got the headline: dressing room doesn't want Mason Greenwood back. There is context to it, of course, but the context really is that we're having a good season, and they don't want anything to distract or derail that season, which makes no total sense. As I say, what happens in the summer and beyond that is up to you. And as I say, I understand that people are very trying to wind people up in the chat because they're sad little individuals. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And I don't want him back in that dressing room. And I agree with any player that feels like that, because we saw yesterday a unity, a community, and a strength that is reminiscent of what it was like in the Sir Alex Ferguson days, where you have that siege mentality where things go against you and you get a result. You bring Mason Greenwood into that this season. I know for a fact that there's people who won't turn up. There's season ticket holders who won't turn up. And that's just within the club. Imagine the external pressure. There's journalists that don't want it to happen. It would be a bloody nightmare. Publicity, PR, everything. Why do that? I mean, I know Martial's injured, but I don't even want to think about Mason Greenwood at the moment because the team's doing well. Let the club do its investigation. Let's see what the club come up with. But I think throwing him back in this season's stupid, really. We've got what we've got and we go with what we've got. Mikel says, thanks to 8 and to the TUSS family. Thank you very much. I'm not doing a poll, Param. We did a poll on Thursday, and it was a bad idea. I'm not doing a poll. Anyway, let's move on. We deal in real life. We don't deal in FIFA. I think some people think, oh, Martial's injured, let's get Greenwood in, and I just completely don't think about the human side of things. Maybe Mason Greenwood doesn't want to play for Man United as well. Has anyone ever thought about that? No, get him back, get him up front. Martial's out injured. Crazy. Anyway, another big story coming out, as I said, was from Steve Bates, who is does the Sunday People, very close to the Mirror, of course. It's one of their outlets. It's a Sunday outlet. So basically what he's saying is that Erik ten Hag is instigating a fire sale in the summer where they're looking to offload a number of players to raise funds. Now, we'll talk about the sale in a minute, and we'll talk about Casemiro's appeal in a minute. But just to explain this situation, because it is true, the cons of him playing outweigh the pros, in my opinion, says Elmir. Thank you very much. So, even if Man United get bought by a multi-billionaire who wants to spend like Todd Boehly, he can't do it because United have sort of messed up over the last few years in relation to how much we've paid on wages and players. This is the fact, and people can like it or not, but financial fair play will come in again. How sharp its teeth are, no one knows, but Man United are in big trouble because our wage bill has to be down to about 70% of our revenue in the next 2 or 3 years, and our wage bill's out of control because we buy people like Anthony who are on 20 grand a year at Ajax and we give him 200 grand a year. Same happened with Sancho. For some reason, we're obsessed with giving ridiculous wages to players, and that's why our wage bill's so big. On top of that, we're also obsessed with overpaying for players as well. So when we buy a player, we probably end up paying 10, 30 million, somewhere between 10 and 30 million pounds on average, more than most normal clubs. And of course that adds up. So in the summer, we have got no leeway to start doing what Man City have done or Chelsea have done because we've already had a few years of spending big on wages and players. So even if we have an owner that has the billions to buy the Mbappés, we have to clear the decks. We have to. We've got to lower the wage bill and we've got to remove some players because those books don't balance. And whilst we can pretend that financial fair play rules might not happen, if they do, we're in big trouble because we are struggling on our wage bill percentage and also what we've spent. So we've got to sell. We've got to sell because that's a way that you do it. You take wages off the bill and you take, you bring money in from sales. So United have got to sell in the summer, regardless of whether the Glazers are still here or more likely we have new owners. And that leads to what this story is on about from this particular journalist. The names Harry Maguire are mentioned, Scott McTominay is mentioned, Donny van der Beek is mentioned, Anthony Martial is mentioned, and then the usual Eric Bailly. And I think Alex Telles was mentioned as well. Good morning, Mark. 4 a.m. here in Louisiana. Love the shows. Never stop supporting. Thank you, Derek. Hope you're doing well. And there are larger questions surrounding the whole situation. Who do we have mentioning these youngsters? Should we do more to help them cope with fame, says Michael. Yeah, 100%. I could tell you a story about the modern young footballer and why they go off the rails because basically they're surrounded with people who are, just desperate to please them, from agents to family members to clubs. There is no moral compass because nobody dares tell them what's right and wrong because they're all desperate to make money out of them. I mean, at the end of the day, a player can leave an agent every, 2 or 3 years? So an agent is always, trying to be nice to the player because they want them to stay with them it's like their contract, isn't it? And then there's other agents who are desperate to get them. So, you're never gonna have an agent or a family member that's around an up and coming footballer telling them what's right and wrong because they're all, we can make money out of this. You create a monster sometimes, you do. That's a bigger picture, by the way. But look, going back to that story from Steve Bates. Look, the cold harsh fact is whether these players are your favourite players or whether you think that they should be sold, we will have to sell players in the summer because Ten Hag wants to buy players. And I wouldn't say it's a sell to buy because if you've got big rich owners, it's not sell to buy. But it's sell to buy because of the way the club has made mistakes over the last few years. We have to start clearing some of that wage bill. We have to start bringing some money in from sales because the books just won't balance. How can you reduce the wage bill but you need to buy 3 or 4 players? I mean, come on. It's like it's like being in the bath, isn't it? And you want more hot water in the bath, but you don't want to make it any deeper. You want to warm your bath up, but you don't want to make it any deeper. Well, how are you going to do that? You've got to let some water out, haven't you? And that's how you do it. If you add water, it's just going to get deeper. So United have to sell in the summer. I don't think there's a fan out there that's not intelligent enough to realise that. We've got to buy in the summer. And to buy, you've got to sell because you've got to reduce the wage bill and we've got to start bringing some money in because that's just the way they want football to be in the next 2 or 3 years. You look at that team and you go, well, Harry Maguire's not playing and wants to play football. There's a value there and he's on a big wage. Scott McTominay is not really playing enough and he's 26, 27. There are clubs that would buy him and there's value there. So they're two players straight away that are very, very obvious. Anthony Martial and Donny van de Beek being on that list I find quite interesting because I don't think Donny van de Beek will be back in the summer to be sold. I hope he is, but my understanding is that his injury may well keep him out at the start of next season, so I don't think Donny will go anywhere because I don't actually think he'll be fit. Anthony Martial, again, is an interesting one. I think we'll do a show on this week. So, Gash, welcome to the Members Club. Would you sell Martial? I think most people would say yes at the moment. Myself, I think why make that decision at the moment? We've still got 4 months left. Waterbridge, says Jonathan. But also, what's the value of Anthony Martial if he's still injured all the time, all the way through till May? Eric Bailly's got to go. Won't bring in a lot of money, but you'll take his wages off the bill and you'll get a little bit of money in. And the same with Tellez. Again, it's wage and a little bit of money. So, look, I don't disagree with Maguire, McTominay, Tellez, Bailly going. I think it's that, it's ruthless and it's aggressive. It's ruthless in removing players and it's aggressive in trying to rotate your squad. We need to bring players in, so you remove players that you feel you don't really need as much as others. So, yeah, I think that makes total sense. And I don't think there'll be a shortage of buyers for those players, some more than others, but I think we'll be able to move them on. And then that frees up space and wages to bring some more players in. But we probably need to do a little bit more than that as well. I mean, look, the obvious people are what the ones that we've mentioned, but I would say, what's Victor Lindelof's future at Manchester United? What would you say that Fred's future is at Manchester United? Because he's only got a year left on his contract, and if you bring in another midfielder in, there might be something that happens there. Personally on Fred and Lindelof, I see their value. I don't see we have to move them on. Obviously, if Weghorst doesn't stay, that takes somebody out of the squad as well. So look, United are going to have to sell. They're going to have to sell, and I think it's 100% relevant that they're looking at that even before we get new owners in, because there is no new owner that can come in with no amount of money and make United not have to sell, because we do have to sell even if we've got the money to buy, because we've got to balance those books, we've got to get that wage bill down, and we've got to get players in. And I think in the case of Harry Maguire, I'm sure he's going to play important games for Manchester United this season. I'm hoping we're going to see Harry Maguire holding a trophy up as club captain, but there is a Euros coming up at the end of next season. He loves playing for England, and if he has another season like this, it's very hard for Gareth Southgate. It was very hard for Gareth Southgate to take Harry Maguire to the World Cup and pick him. It was the right choice. He did well, but he wasn't playing football for Man United. I don't think he can have another year of that. So I think he's got to move for his own career if he can't get his place back. And even if we lost Varane or Martinez, the problem that Harry Maguire's got is that, yeah, you might play some games now, but long term, you can't play the way that they play. So we've got to bring another centre-back in. McTominay, again, where does McTominay fit in? Casemiro is obviously better. Fred's better. Bruno's better. Eriksen's better. Sabitzer's better. Fred, as I think I've said, is better. So he's way down the pecking order, and there's first-team football he could get. So I think Maguire and McTominay are in a similar position. And I think it makes sense, but we'll see. The fact that we've let players go and I'm not replaced them and still face financial restrictions says so much about how bad our business is, says Cap. And Mark, Fred is 1 yellow away from suspension. I know Fred will do a clumsy tackle on someone, which will leave us with Kobe Mainoo or Sancho at 10, says Cabela. And is there any chance that we could buy Sabitzer on a permanent deal after the loan spell? And do you think Bayern would sell him to us, says Joshua? I think Sabitzer to Manchester United is logical if he does well. I don't think Fred is 1 yellow card away from a suspension, by the way. I mean, there's greater minds on this sort of thing than me. I'd love Tomori, by the way, Ivan. I would love Tomori. There's greater minds than me on this in the chat, but I'm pretty sure that Fred yellow card thing comes back to the halfway point of the season, and I think it got refreshed. So I don't think Fred does get a yellow card suspension with one more, because I think he had that before the Arsenal game, and if Casemiro hadn't got that yellow card, he wouldn't have missed the next game, would he? So I don't think that's the case. But yeah, the five card rule has gone, says Alex King. Yeah, thank you for that. I didn't think that was the case. Thanks everyone who's watching, by the way. Please smash a like on the video and subscribe. Loads more to talk about, but don't forget we have got the I'm doing a watch along this afternoon. Man City against Spurs, big game, 4 o'clock, and then 7 o'clock on the United Stand for the 7 o'clock show. So lots of that. There was something I want to talk about Casemiro. I want to talk about the sale of the club. There's something I wanted to talk about there that I've completely lost, and there was a chat about it. So maybe that'll bring me my mind back. I liked Sabitzer yesterday. I really did like Sabitzer yesterday. I know it was only a cameo for half an hour, but the plan with Sabitzer for me would be, let's see what he's all about. If he's anywhere decent, you buy him for 30 million. I think it's Sabitzer is next season's Eriksen. That's what he is. Next summer's Eriksen. We'll probably spend big on a couple of players, but for me, Sabitzer, 25 million quid, 29 years of age. If he does well over the next few months, let's get him in. I think that would be absolutely perfect. Really. I really, really like that. Red Milk says, any update on Garnacho's new contract? Very, very close, apparently. Yeah, really, really close. I saw some stuff about it yesterday. There's never been any prospect that he won't sign that contract. I mean, look, there's aspects of stories around United I found really interesting. 99% of it we'll talk about on the morning shows, you know that. But sometimes certain stories like signing Butland and stuff like that, I'm just like, well, it's news, but it doesn't really... sometimes it slips through the net, to be honest. Garnacho signing a new contract is going to happen. It's just about a matter of when it's going to happen. And look, I think Ten Hag said it after the game yesterday. He felt bad about subbing off Garnacho. I didn't. I think that's what top management is all about. We are down to 10 men. We've lost our centre midfielder. We know we're going to have to defend. You've got to take an attacker off, and you're not going to take Rashford off. So I think it was the right substitution to make, to take Garnacho off. I know subbing a sub sometimes gets frowned upon, but I mean, it was completely tactical. You could sense that Garnacho was frustrated, but at the end of the day, if I'm Garnacho, I'm happy that he's frustrated. If I'm Ten Hag, because that's what you want. You want somebody that's hungry to play football. And I would have took him aside, as I'm sure Ten Hag did, and I would have said, look, mate, I don't want to take you off, but we need to win games. There's a future at this football club, and you're part of it. And that 3 points today was about the future. If I'm just interested in developing Garnacho and I don't care about 3 points, I'll keep you on. But I'm interested in developing you and developing a future, and you're part of that future. And I need those 3 points because I want to be in the Champions League next year, and I want you playing in the Champions League. There is a bigger picture here. So I understand your frustration, but in no way was it about your performance. And on top of that, you might have only been on the pitch for 20 minutes. As soon as you came on, you're part of a brilliant team goal, and we win the game because of that. So take the positives, enjoy your weekend. You're a fantastic player, and you're going to get better under me. Go and enjoy your weekend. See you later. And he'll walk out with a smile on his face, because that's what good management is all about. And I love Garnacho. He's not the finished article. Some people get frustrated with him. As I said on Wednesday, I was like, Garnacho's brilliant, and people were like, he had a crap game, Mark. And I'm like, no, not for me. Because I judge Garnacho in a completely different way to the way I judge Anthony, Sancho, Rashford. Because Garnacho is a youth player who is in his breakout season. And every time he's on the pitch, something happens. As I say, it's not always good. Sometimes it's a bad shot, or he overruns it, or he gets tackled. But he gets the ball, and he's trying to make something happen. And Ryan Giggs used to be like this. I used to go to Old Trafford a lot in the early noughties, and anybody you speak to who used to go there would say the same. You'd be sat there at Old Trafford and you'd be giving Giggsy shit. People forget that just because of the social media age, and people go, well, you shouldn't criticise the players. I used to be down Old Trafford, and you'd hear, Giggs taking on a player for again and losing it. And the crowd would be going mad, absolutely mad, because that's what support's all about. It's not all, roses and, lollipop lane fantasy, and it's absolutely. But then he'd get the ball, skip past someone, whip across, and then we'd score. It will never be perfection as a winger. It's the intent. You will get tackled, you will overrun it, you will misplace your shot or your cross, but Garnacho is like that. He always looks like something's going to happen, and yesterday it did. Do you think United could go for Onana from Everton, and do you think he's good enough? I think, Joshua, that Onana for Everton is not on United's radar at the moment, but he will end up playing for a top 4 club in this country or a top club elsewhere. Joseph says, Agbonlahor chatting crap again on TalkSport. Well, look, I don't know whether anyone listened to my show last night. If you didn't, you can watch what I said about the Casemiro thing on the TalkSport YouTube app because they put the clip up. But yesterday, I do my show at 7:30 till 9 o'clock on TalkSport, which is national radio in the UK. It's on YouTube as well. Great show last night, loads of good calls. Before my show, they have Gagby Agbonlahor, who used to play for Villa, and Jamie O'Hara, who used to play for Spurs. They have their call-in bit as well. And during that, Agbonlahor had said that Casemiro should be arrested. I don't like violence. And then I'd tweeted ahead of my show, and he'd read it, and he goes, "Well, maybe Mark Goldbridge likes violence. I don't." Ten Hag put it perfectly last night about the Casemiro thing. He said that, effectively there's a lot going on there, and Casemiro gets sent off when there's a lot of other things going on. And that's absolutely my case. This is not about violence. This is not about, whether they got it right or not, because they got it wrong. They got it completely wrong. Now, we've all seen we've seen the picture that VAR goes off, and it looks like he's got hold of his neck. But from another angle, he's got hold of his collar. And then in slow motion, it looks like he's holding his neck for about a minute. And in reality, he's holding it for about a second or two. And then he's basically keeping him back. That's what he's doing. He could have had his shoulders. He could have had his hips. He's holding him back. He's not throttling him. He's holding him back. And within 2 seconds of that, they're hugging and saying, yeah, let's calm down. So there was no aggression there. There's no violent conduct. He's holding him back. And, if you think, well, technically he's touched his neck, so it's got to be a red card. Well done, because I'm about to sit you down. VAR gets that wrong 100%, and that should be appealed, and the FA should let it go. They won't let it go because they'll be shit scared of undermining their referees, which they don't want to do, and also they'll be going, well, he does grab his neck, which he actually doesn't. But the reason they got it wrong, and the reason they won't let us appeal it, or we won't win an appeal, even though we should, is because if you watch NFL, which I do, Super Bowl in a couple of weeks, they can stop a game for a while to look at whether there's been any infringements or anything like that. Football is meant to be quick. If it's offside, you look at the offside, you might get a minute, but let's find out if it's offside. If there's a mass brawl, or whatever you want to call it yesterday, with people pushing and shoving everybody, and there's about 20 players involved, the minimum they should have done there was just book Anthony. Sorry, the maximum they should have done was book Anthony and Schlupp, because Schlupp started it and Anthony got up and pushed him back. That should have been the end of it. The minute the VAR guy starts turning himself into bloody Spielberg, analysing video, is the minute he's made an absolute prat of himself. Because what he's done is, he's gone, yeah, you should book Anthony and Schlupp, but look what else I found. Look at what Casemiro's doing to Hughes. Come and have a look at it, Andre. Come and have a look at it. Oh, yeah, he's got him round the neck. Red card. They're looking at one angle in slow motion, and that angle, from a different angle, he hasn't even got hold of his neck, he's got hold of his collar, and it's not aggressive, right? So they haven't even got the angles to look at different angles. But the best bit, and the reason why this is just a complete and utter joke, is that VAR guy is a prat, and so is Andre Mariner, because neither of them have the intelligence to go, hold on a minute, we're analysing stuff here that should be done after the game. We shouldn't be making decisions about this in the game, because what if somebody else is doing something worse than that? Because there's about 20 players involved here. What if someone else is doing something else there and there and there? And what if it's worse than what Casemiro's doing? We send Casemiro off, and then we've not looked at the other stuff, we're going to get absolutely pelted because we've gone away from the incident. Anthony and Schlupp, they started it, book 'em, move on, let's carry on with the game. Finding the Casemiro thing and going, oh yeah, look at what we've done there, means that you have to find everything else, which would take you 10 minutes. And also, you need to know the other angles like other people had. They've exposed themselves as prats because they've gone looking for something they didn't need to go looking for in a game of football. That should be, if they find it later, go and give him a retrospective ban. But what would happen is, when they found that Casemiro one, they'd also see Ayew aggressively, one-handed, right round Fred's neck, shoving him off. which is worse than what Casemiro did. So that's where they've made the mistake. That is not the purpose of VAR. VAR is not there to go finding stuff. VAR is there for offsides, penalties, and the original incident. What started it? And what's visible around what started it? Not, well, they started it, but I've looked at this angle and I found this. Yes, you're Pratt, you have found that, but you've completely missed the AU one as well. That's where they got it wrong, and that's what some people, even some of our fans, cannot get their head around. But it's a red card, Mark. He's grabbed him round the neck. You're not listening. You cannot. It's prejudice. You cannot just go and find that one and then let everyone else off and give up there. You can't do that. It's unfair. It's like if I went to a summer fair and I'm the judge for who's produced the best carrots, and there's 20 contenders. I eat the first one and I go, it's that one. They're the best carrots I've ever played. Sorry, I'm not even going to try your carrots because that carrot's the best one I've ever tried. First place. All the other 19 would go, that is an absolute farce, mate. They might be the best carrots, but you've not even tried the other 19, but this is the best carrot I've ever tried. But there's 19 others. By definition, if you've just tried the best carrot you've ever tried, you hadn't before, there's 19 other here that might be better than that. No, I'm just going to give it to that. It's not fair and it's not right. And I don't think some people understand this because I've moved beyond whether Casemiro should have got a red. If you want to give him a red, that's fine. I think Schlupp should have got a red, and AU definitely should have got a red. So if we, I'm about what's right here. The misuse of VAR is disgusting, and it is an injustice because even if you want to give Casemiro a red, you've got to give AU one. And I think you've got to give Schlupp one. I'm sorry, I do. He watch his eyes. He's not looking at the ball. It's a purpose whack Anthony into the side hoardings. And I was saying this last night as well. People will say, "Oh, come on, it's a body check." Oh yeah, because a body check never hurt anyone, did it? What if he body checked Anthony and Anthony whacked the back of his head on there, and he's knocked out and he's in a coma for a couple of days? Do you think Schlupp should get a red card then? He's got no control over what he's doing. All he wants to do is take Anthony out. There's intent. It's reckless. It's aggressive. So that's my explanation of it. That's why Man United should appeal it. And that is why the FA won't let it happen, because they'd have to expose the inadequacy of VAR. And look, I found out I was blocked by Gary Lineker last night. I don't know what I've said. I might have been blocked for... I wasn't blocked a couple of weeks ago, so... I think I got blocked yesterday, and I think it's because he saw my tweet about Casemiro. Well, I'm sorry, Gary. I respect you. You've given me many a happier time as a kid when I was watching you play for England. But you present match of the day, mate. You need to open your mind. You really do. Because I don't care whether you think Casemiro is a red card. I'm blowing the doors off VAR, and it's complete and utter misuse. You cannot have an incident like that with so many players involved and then find one incident and not review the whole lot. What they should have done is said, give a yellow card to Schlupp, give a yellow card to, what's his name? There's loads gone on, Andre, but we need to get this game over. I suggest we review this afterwards, which we have the right to do. We'll review it afterwards, and if we find stuff, then they can get retrospective bans. But finding one thing and knowing there's about 20 other players up to stuff and that you haven't got the time to look at, it's just not what you want. Coldplay, geez, Mark, we don't want him to get top himself. Give him something happier to get your extra ban if appeal fails. Yes, you could get an extra game, Wayne, if the appeal fails as well. So United might not bother appealing it. They might not bother because they won't win it, but they should appeal it because it's absolutely... It's absolutely gone. True Killer says you're spot on, Mark, and pundits will fail to open their mind. It's just so frustrating because I know there's people in the chat and I saw people on social media who are United fans who I respect, which is why I didn't bother arguing with them, because they're like, you can't put hands on someone's neck. And fine, but you're not opening your mind to what we're talking about. It's the misuse of VAR. It's an injustice. You can't just go... Well, I think it was a red card, so they got it right. Because if you think that's a red card, AU has to get a red card. He's got him, and he sprays like that, and he pushes him off on his neck. Casemiro, at best, has him there on the collar. AU has Fred there. like it. I don't think Casemiro should have got a red. I don't think it was aggressive. I don't think it was grabbing, throttling. It was basically holding him off. I don't think it was a red. But I would even concede that if it was a red, I won't argue with people about it. If you think it's a red, fine. But AU is 100% a red, and that's where the injustice is. He in VAR, he's not taken his time. He's gone and found one incident, which he didn't. He doesn't need to go and find that, by the way. What is he doing? Like, the incident, what started it, what went on with Schlupp and Anthony, yeah? Why is he going off looking at one on the edge? Because it's easy, because it's on the edge. You know, it's crap, VAR. I'm sorry, it's lazy. If he worked for me, I'd sack him, because it's lazy. You've wandered away from the main incident to go to have a look at something on the edge, because it's easy. It's easy to see that one, because it's on the edge. What about the 15 players in the middle? Well, I can't take me ages to find the angles. Yeah, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. You're lazy, incompetent, and you've exposed and embarrassed the system of VAR again, because you've gone for an easy target on the edge because you can see it. And you know what'll happen in the modern game? Why are they not switched on? As soon as that happened yesterday, I was like, there's going to be so many angles from the crowd, and there's going to be so many angles on what all the other lot were doing. And that person in VAR thinks they think they're Spielberg, they think they're going to get an Oscar. And actually, you're going to get ridiculed, because we've seen the pictures of what AU did. We've seen the different angles of Casemiro. It's just a shocking use of the system. And again, I've heard nobody on mainstream media talk about it other than myself on TalkSport last night and this morning. Nobody is talking about that it was misused because they didn't look at what everyone else did. And that's targeting. That's unfair. That's the carrot judging again. Anyway, we move on. Thanks everyone for all your comments on it. I'm loving this vibe. It feels like we're back. Says Savage. Oh yeah. You know what? I said this last night as well. As much as it was an injustice, I've got to be honest. We went from, I think we had like 40,000 people watching the watch along yesterday afternoon. As soon as Casemiro got sent off, it was like 55,000 watching. And that means rival fans are coming in. And I was winding up our own chat and them, because I said, with 5 minutes to go of stoppage time, I was like, welcome. We're going to win this, because we're fighting. We've got great, and I knew we were going to win. And I didn't want Casemiro to get sent off. And it's not ideal, but it did show, in a way, a positive that team just united, came together, fought for each other. They didn't look like Palace were going to score. The only way they were going to score was if they kept whipping crosses to the back post where Wan-Bissaka was, because that's the only real weakness we've got. And we dealt with that fine anyway. So, yeah, it did show that siege mentality which is coming back, which, that is, Mourinho had it a little bit, to be fair, this siege mentality. But we're dangerous when we've got that. We're very dangerous as a club, because the fans love it. And that's what will turn Old Trafford into a fortress as well. The fact that we've got this siege mentality, them against us. I personally feel as well that since that Rashford goal against Man City, which shouldn't have been a goal, it was a stupid goal, but we got away with it. It feels like since that, the referees and everybody's a bit against us, because they know they messed up. But they keep messing up with us now. But look, we're winning games. Like, we're talking about stuff that's an injustice, but we're winning games. Simple as that. With regards to the sale, I can't wait for the 7 o'clock show tonight, by the way. Oh, don't forget. Got a bit of shreddy stuck in my throat. Don't forget. I've dropped the link in the live chat and it's in the video description. I'm getting really excited about these tour dates. Obviously, we've sold Dublin out. We've still got some tickets in London and Manchester, although Manchester is getting close to being sold out. Links in the live chat and it's in the video description, and it's in the March international break. So if you enjoy the shows we do, imagine what it's going to be like as a live show, because we can be a little bit looser in what we say. And also, there's some questions that have come through already that I'm more than happy to talk about. They're going to be good nights. So if you want to get yourself over to Manchester or London, they're fantastic places to visit. If you're a Man United fan, why would you not go to Manchester in the international break? Get yourself around the Old Trafford tour when it's a bit quieter. Get yourself down to the United Stand tour as well and take a look around a fantastic city. Because Manchester, I tell you what, I went into Manchester City Centre about 8 months ago. Now, I've been going to Manchester for years and years and years. And where Old Trafford is, it always felt like, although it's close to the city centre, you can walk it in about half an hour if you're fast down the canal. It always felt like it was quite, you had city centre and then you've got Old Trafford, and there was not a lot between it. It was a bit industrial, etc. It's expanding, like, you know, it's not going to be, it won't be many more years until Manchester City Centre is basically part of where Old Trafford is. It's getting big and big. Check it out, lovely. And obviously London's great. Glazers are in Dubai, says Shahir, and we shouldn't appeal Casemiro card. It's a 3-match ban, so he's back for the final. There is a talk of appeal, says Chad. Would you appeal it? Let's do a poll on this. Would you appeal it? Now, I'm saying no, because I know how the FA work. All my life, my very long life, the FA have been incompetent, in my opinion. So I wouldn't appeal it, because to me, it's by the FA are, when they make a mistake, they're not very good at accepting it, and they've made a mistake here. They won't accept what we know is a mistake, that they messed up. They'll stick to the letter of the law. They'll say his hands are around his neck, and they'll stick to it, and they may even add a ban on. So I just think, like That says, let's just weather the storm and get on with it. It was an injustice. It is a disgrace. Everyone knows it was a joke. Let's just use it as a motivator and leave the FA and their stupid VAR and let's just move on, because they're not gonna rescind something and admit they got it wrong. So we're just wasting our time. I think I'd take the higher ground and just be like, you're an absolute bunch of prats for the reason we've said. We'll just carry on doing us. You carry on making mistakes. And also, let's not forget, the games that Casemiro will miss are Leeds twice and Leicester. Well, Leicester and Leeds are at home, 2 of those games. You'd expect us to win. Leeds away is difficult without Casemiro, but to be honest with you, if McTominay can get himself back fit, McTominay hardly ever plays well for Man United, but if I think of all his good games, most of them against Leeds. So McTominay and Fred have this tendency to play quite well against Leeds, even when we had Solskjaer. So yeah, I think it is an injustice, and it should get rescinded, but you know for a fact they won't do it. So there we go. And like Doobie Guy says, McTominay's favourite opposition is Leeds. On the sale, there was stuff coming out yesterday. I think some people do too much content and too much articles and too much time spent on the sale. It's almost like they've got a fetish for it. Because obviously I consume and see a lot of stuff, and I'm like, oh, we're going to talk about this now, I'm going to write about this now, and it's like, I find the sale really exciting. What I find really boring about it is the way that people are constantly trying to find different angles on it. The sale is this, right? The Glazers are here, the Glazers are there, the Glazers are fucking everywhere. Like, the Glazers are in Dubai, the Glazers are in America, the Glazers are in France. I don't really care. The Glazers can be in Mars trying to track down Elon Musk. I don't mind. Like, they're trying to sell their football club. If the Glazers were in Dubai and we didn't know we were for sale, oh yeah, granted, what's going on there? But we're up for sale. The Glazers are trying to sell the club. Oh, they're there. Yeah, great. So what? Bids are going to go in the next week. Oh my God, Slow Sports News. Oh, what's this? Get my yellow tie out. Park my Audi. Manchester United are up for sale and bids are going in next week. I'm pretty sure we got told a month ago that bids are going to go in mid-February. What's happening next week? Mid-February. So where we are at with the sale is that in the next 2 weeks, people are going to bid for Manchester United. And those bids are going to go in from England, America, Asia, Middle East. And we will get more information as that happens. I don't know whether these bids will be made public. When I look at information, if you want new information on the sale of Man United, right? This is not new information. The Glazers are going around everywhere. They were at the World Cup. They're trying to get people to buy us. That's not new. Bids are going to go in the next week or two. That's not new. Man United will be sold in some shape or form. That's not new. What's new information is, will we be made aware of who bids for this football club? We know that Sir Jim and Ineos want to buy us. So when will we find out who the other bids are? That's new information for me. When will we know about that? 2, when the bids go in, will that be made public? 3, when the bids go in, are they final bids, or will the Glazers and the Rain Group go back in and say, right, we've had these bids, there is a higher bid, is it your final bid, or do you want to put in a final bid like you do with a house? Like, because if you've ever bought a house, what sometimes happens if it's a house that a lot of people want, you put your bid in, and then the estate agent rings you up and says, we've had other bids, so the sellers are going to go to final offers now. And you go, what are the other bids? And they go, we can't tell you that. Was mine the highest anyway? We can't tell you that. So basically, I've put a bid in which I think's fair, yeah, and you're telling me to put a final offer in, yeah. But if I stick with my bid, someone might be higher, yeah. So you're tempted to put a higher bid in. Is that going to happen? Is this first and final bids in mid-February, or is it bids that the Glazers assess and then go, right, let's go to final bids? And I suspect it's the latter, because I suspect what will happen is United will probably end up with, because it will all be a closed bid process, no one's going to know who bids what. I think United will get, let's say, 5 serious bids to buyers. The Glazers will look at them and go back to the Rain Group and say, yeah, we would accept that one, and that one. Now go back to them and say, is that your final bid? Because we might get a little bit more. And how long does that process take? So new information for me is that, will we know when the bids go in, who they've gone in from? Is that final bids? And will that be made publicly aware? Because personally, I still think we could be a month away before we know who's bought Man United. If we're lucky. And hopefully that's what happens. Hey, Mark, what do you think about Newcastle? So look, on the sale, a lot of stuff around this weekend, but none of it's really new information. You know, the Glazers are trying to sell the club and lots of people are interested. Oh, my God. That's new. Hi, Mark. What do you think about Newcastle keeper who was with us? If we win the cup, he gets a medal, says Daniel. It's weird, isn't it? That Dubravka story is weird. I don't get that. Can we giggle at the fact that there is more interest in us than Liverpool? Also, Casemiro having a rest might be beneficial for future games, says Lil. Yeah, I read about that as well. Apparently, Man United have got more interested parties than us than Liverpool. I mean, at the end of the day, so what? I think that can be explained by the fact that we're a bigger club. Liverpool fans probably won't like that, but we are. We are a bigger club with bigger ground and bigger potential and bigger fan base. So that could be explained away. But in fairness to Liverpool, if I was somebody who wanted to buy a football club and I wasn't a Manchester United fan, I would want to buy Manchester United or Liverpool in England, because they are the two best clubs with the biggest potential in my mind. I think the reason Liverpool might not be getting the same amount of interest in us is quite logical, though. We are looking for a complete sale, and everyone, well, the buyers are looking to buy Man United out and get rid of the Glazers. At Liverpool, I think the FSG group are quite open that they want investment. Well, as we've seen with the Glazers, they've been looking for investment for 2 years and they can't find it. So I think the interest in Man United is probably bigger because it's a full sale. Whereas Liverpool, I think, are more leaning towards a partial sale, which is more difficult to find. So there we go. Fernando says it's a complete misuse of VAR. 63% of you said we should appeal the Casemiro ban. Look, morally we should, 100%. But if you know how the FA works, they won't let us win that appeal, and they could add another game on. So I'd say up yours and just carry on with it, if I'm absolutely honest. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. That's been a cracking show. Really enjoyed it. Wow, it's been a tour de force of big topics on a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock for us in the UK. That's an amazing show. I've absolutely loved it. It's been absolutely brilliant. That's one of my favourite shows, and I don't normally feel like that on a morning show. So I think the 7 o'clock show tonight should be even better. Don't forget, if you're watching Spurs against Man City, I'm doing a watch-along on That's Football. We'll be live at about 4 o'clock for a 4:30 kickoff. Still, that's a massive game for us, you know. Man City, we want a draw. If Man City don't win and Spurs don't win, a draw's a great result for us, and a lot of the results have gone our way, so I'm looking forward to that one. I really am. Fantastic show, but it's made by you lot. You know, I know I'm brilliant, but in honesty, the show works because of the people watching it and interacting with it. So thanks, everyone. Gil says, how tall are you, Mark? I don't want to ruin people's Sunday by telling the truth. I'm 6 foot, always have been. I was down a pub the other day and someone came up to me and said, "You're bigger than you are in real life." There's something about me on screen that people think I'm small. I'm tall. Well, I'm 6 foot. Tall's not that big now these days, is it? Make sure you subscribe to the channel and smash a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And don't forget those tickets. I want to get these. I want to do more tour dates. So if we can sell them out, I can go. Let's have another one. So thanks everyone for that. Links in the chat and the video description. Get yourself over to Manchester or London, and I'll speak to you all in a little bit. Take care. Have a good day.